Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Diskoshamans Clubhouse. Come on through. I'm Hamad Chaudhry. This is our hostess, Paris.
Hello, how are you tonight?
Excellent. Let's go through. You.
Thank you.
So tell me about yourself. What? If you could be one animal,
One animal.
what would you be?
Oh, I would be a tiger.
A tiger.
Yes.
You know what's crazy? That is my favorite animal too. That's right.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
I'm serious. I love tigers.
Why do you love tigers?
They're unique. Their colors, the way that they go out and hunt. You?
Very nice. I like the fact that the woman is mainly in charge.
Really?
Takes control.
Okay.
The man sleeps for most of the day.
I like
while
that.
the women go out and hunt.
I actually don't mind that at all. I mean, if I'm happy to sleep all day at home and you can go out and hunt for me.
I'm sure you like that.
Well, why don't we set something up like that?
Ah, okay, we can set that up.
All right, awesome. Awesome. So tell me more about yourself.
So I'm an actress.
Okay.
I do a bit of film, but I'm also a nurse.
Also a nurse.
Yes, so starting to do nursing at uni.
Yeah.
But yeah, just
Do you ever feel like you got to act when you're in the nurse
all
doing
the
the nursing
time.
field?
You're acting 24/7.
Yeah. Like you don't care about the guy. You're like, just get out of here.
Yeah, you kind of have to. I mean, a little bit you're talking and you just have to kind of make them feel better. Sometimes you have to tell them things like, oh, it's okay, you'll get better. Like, you know, there are things to improve when you know that they won't be improving. But it's a boost of confidence that they might need to get a little bit better. And that's, you know, a whole part of the act of being a nurse.
True.
There are so many things you have to say.
I guess humans generally are like actors.
Oh,
Right? Like sometimes we can fool ourselves to be this particular person and tell ourselves that we are this character, but really we're not.
exactly.
Much more than that.
I think that we just have to, I mean, everyone's acting day-to-day life, we just don't know it.
Do you have a mask on right now? Question.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
As in, like, are you letting me see you for who you really are, or are you portraying an image that you want me to see?
No, I think I'm being, I don't know.
I think you're very genuine.
You think I'm genuine?
I feel that. I feel that energy coming off you.
Good, if that's what you feel, then that's what
That's
I am.
tiger energy. No.
Tiger energy.
Well, I'll catch up with you inside. It's lovely
Catch
to
up
meet
with you
Thank very
inside.
much.
Lovely to
Take
meet
care.
you.
Cheers. Cheers, brother. Tell me this, did you ever think in your life you'd be where you are today? Winning the golden buzzer, being in front of thousands of people, being able to make them laugh, being able to make their internal biochemicals just shift, like, it's a big thing.
Up until like 3 weeks before we started filming, I didn't even think that I was going to do the show.
Really?
Yeah, they fought tooth and nail to get me on there, man. I kept saying no, I don't want to do it. Like it's no comic ever wins it, and they come back and they're like, come on, just try it. And then one of the producers came back, and like, oh look, the last guy that won it was a comic in the UK, so it's possible. So that's why I gave it a crack.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
How is it up for you now? Are you getting nervous when you're up there?
Nah, it's more so excitement.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Selling out damn near arenas.
Arenas?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? It's one of those things where you look back at life and you're like, suddenly life's just boring.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, everything happens so quick. Do you feel that? Do you feel that that's happening to you? Like everything's happening quick? Or are
yeah, everything happens quick to a certain degree, but I'm a firm believer that I need to make use of my time that I got right now. You know what I mean? So I'm always working. I'm always like around my kids, my loved ones. Or less so my loved ones now because I'm away so much. But yeah, like I do know that time races by.
What do you want to leave behind? What do you want to leave behind? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
That I definitely want to leave something behind. That I was a positive person. I contributed to society and I contributed to making this world a better place, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to cement my name in the concrete before the cement dries.
Hey, we'll put your name in the sky, man. We'll put your name on satellites.
Hey.
I invoice you after. I'm like, hey bro, the fuel was expensive as fuck.
As you know, there's been a lot of trouble in Ukraine and the petrol prices are very expensive.
Hey man, this is no GST too. Well, thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Catch up with you later in the show.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome onto the stage, come on!
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Hey, would you like to come sit up here? Would you like to come sit up here? I'm a bit lonely. Thank you. Better. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Welcome to Diskoshaman City. Today we're doing things in a very special and different way. The whole reason for this platform was to have absolute free speech. Not be a dick, but just have free speech. To be able to talk about things that are challenging and pressing in today's time. So today's first debate will be mandatory pronouns versus not having to use pronouns. Okay? What do you think?
This has been a whole big thing on the whole Instagram, Facebook. Everyone's doing the she, her, he, him. I don't even understand it and I don't get it.
Yeah.
I support people for who they are and I think it's absolutely not necessary, but I mean, we live in a strange world and each to their own, but
cool.
It's kind of a new thing.
So one of the ground rules is to not have personal attacks. Let's have a civilized conversation. Let's be adults. So I'd like to bring on Emo Majuk.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, how we doing? Yeah. All right, we need to get that energy level back up again. I said, what's up, ladies and gentlemen, how we doing? Yeah. Welcome to the debate. I am your humble host, Emo Majuk. Thank you so much for having us.
Anytime.
This is going to be very fun. There's a lot of Bloods and Crips out tonight. So I'm looking forward to that. And like you said, it's going to be respectful. It's a debate. We're not going to treat it like we do in Africa and the Middle East and kill each other. I want to make sure this building is the way we found it, okay? So Emo is my name, ladies and gentlemen. That is my nickname. My full name is Emmanuel Majuk, but don't call me that though. That name has been reserved by bankers, judges, and police officers. I do have like a couple other different nicknames around different circles. For example, in my mother's household, my sweet mother, she calls me Accident. Man, even the people of Perth got a nickname for me. I just recently found out the good people of Perth have got a nickname for me. I was actually walking up to the venue earlier and I saw this beautiful looking lady, just beautiful, beautiful looking lady. So I thought I should like go up and introduce myself, you know, just in case the show goes well. But if I could tell her my name, she just took a guess. I was like, hey, my name is, she's like, help! And then she just ran off. I was like, that's not my name. I didn't think that she heard me. So I chased after her. Right to a cop. I love my nicknames though, man. I do. I love my nicknames. What I don't like is nicknames that are not associated to the person. Like, what's your name, big guy? Sai. And what is it? Is it short for something? Like,
Simon.
huh? Simon. All right. See, his name makes sense. Simon. Makes sense, right? I met a guy one time, right? Told me his name is Justin. But hey, you can just call me Prince. I was like, before I start doing that, is everybody else going to be calling you Prince or just me? Been watching a lot of TV as of lately. A lot of TV. You guys been watching a bit of the news? You been keeping up with that last season of Russia versus Ukraine? It's getting good. The bad guys starting to lose now, which is cool. Like everyone's aiding Ukraine at the moment because an injustice anyway is an injustice, right? Who helped out? For example, America wanted to help out Ukraine, so they cancelled 850 of their McDonald's in Russia. And Russia was like, thank you for saving our lives, man. Germany wanted to help out as well. Do we have any Germans here tonight? Yeah, you hardly ever find them at a comedy gig, eh? Like, Australia helped out. Australia's offered some aid to Ukraine as well. And seeing all these different countries helping out Ukraine, man, it inspired me, man. I was at a bar one night, right? And I ordered a vodka and soda. And the bartender reaches over on the shelf and grabs this Russian vodka from the shelf. It didn't say Russian vodka on it. I just noticed dyslexic writing. So I just stopped the bartender, right? I said, no, sir, I want to stand with Ukraine. Would you have an alternative vodka? He goes, yes, we do, actually. We have a Polish vodka. It's called Belvedere. However, it's an extra $1.30. So I went into my wallet and I grabbed $10 and I said, I'll have the Russian vodka then, thanks. I'm already doing my part for Ukraine with these new petrol prices. I love comedy, man. I love comedy. The doors have been opening a little bit more for me as of lately, man. I get to like travel and go abroad to like certain areas now, which is cool. Because I used to live in Mirabooka, obviously. But I live in Maylands now, which is cool. It's a massive upgrade, trust me, it is. Because I went from living around poor black people to now living around poor white people. And I love it. But every now and then I get like a random white guy come up and ask me for loose change. And I give it to him. But I do it for the wrong reasons though, man. I do it because I kind of feel like I'm rewriting history. Every time I give him change, I'm like, here you go, my man. Just don't spend it all on drugs. I was actually speaking to my mum recently. She's like, son, how is it like living in Maylands now? I'm like, ma, it's beautiful. I love this area. It's very multicultural. You should see it. The white people ask me for money. And my mum was so proud, she started crying, tears of joy. She's like, you're doing very well, my son. And then she calls my father into the FaceTime, man. I can never forget it. She's like, Michael, come have a look at your son. He has become the king of the whites. I'll leave you one more before I get this show kicking. I have been traveling a lot for comedy. I've gotten over the last couple of years the chance to go around to like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. I even went as far as North Australia, or as you Aussies like to call it, Bali. But I just recently did the Australian Outback. I was doing like these gold mine sites, like the Outback Comedy Tour, entertaining all the miners, like not kids. The judge made that very clear. And I was working on this gold mine sign, right? And there was a lot of white people in the Australian Outback. Use it everywhere in Australia now. There's been a lot of tension between white and black people over the last couple of years. I'm actually feeling some right now. But I think it's because we don't understand each other, because of our differences in culture. And for us to ever move forward, I feel like we'll have to do our part. Would you agree? Yeah. So little adjustments from both ends. Like, for example, white people, you need to stop assuming that all black people have to steal shit that's not theirs. And black people, man, we need to stop trying to steal back our shit from white people, man. We need to start educating these younger generations, start being more truthful and transparent to the kids. White people, you need to stop lying to your kids. This is my personal favorite lie, by the way. Make sure you finish off all your dinner, because somewhere in Africa, there's a child that would love to eat it. Bullshit. What you guys don't realize is African parents actually tell their kids a similar thing. Like, I remember as a kid, my mom used to tell me, son, make sure you finish off all your dinner, because somewhere in Australia, there's a child eating food without seasoning, son. Salt and pepper ain't seasoning, bitch. Ladies and gentlemen, my only job tonight was just to warm you guys up. I'm gonna be coming up and in between intervals and introducing the next segments. But without further ado, Hamid, would you like to help bring on Mr. Corey White?
Ladies and gentlemen, give a massive round of applause to Imam Majuk. If you guys don't know, recently Imam Majuk was voted Golden Buzzer Australia's Got Talent. So there he is.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to bring on Corey White. And I would like to bring on Echo. In the first part of the debate, we're going to have a 60-second hot round in which we address an idea, and within that idea, Corey gets 60 seconds, and then Echo gets 60 seconds. My man, that's service. What are they?
And you thought slavery was over?
Hey man, my people were slaves too, you know. We Browns ain't too far from you guys. So, for the second round, we'll have 2 minutes, and then for the third round, fifth round, I'm fucking disabled or some shit. For the third round, we will get just a complete ongoing conversation between the two parties, and then we get some questions coming in from the general public, the crowd. Thank you very much.
Hi, this is Rob. See who goes first. Oh, you fucked that up. I win. You're first.
I'm going to put a question up for you. All right. So, pronouns versus mandatory pronouns. 60 seconds. Go.
Yep. So mandatory pronoun, for me, the definition of mandatory itself is something that's regulated by government, right? So why it needs to be regulated? It's to draw the fine line between ambiguity. The ambiguity itself is something that if we talk about something controversial, then there's two things. Something illegal or something ethical. Something illegal doesn't mean it's unethical. Something ethical doesn't mean it's legal. That's the thing that you can do. And there's also the thing that I will say is the argument about regulation is there's a limit of regulation, what can be regulated and what will be regulated in this situation. For example,
10 seconds.
For example, what can be regulated is like putting your pronouns in your ID. That can be regulated. And final thing is, I don't believe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Echo. I'd just like to say firstly, I don't believe anything that's mandatory is okay. I think these ideas need to be embraced rather than enforced. I have been accused of being a Nazi for having that belief, and my response to that is my pronouns are he, Himmler. But this issue is not black and white, there is a massive grey area, so what I like to promote is non-binary thinking. I'm a gender fluid in that regard, but anything that is imposed by the state, I don't believe in any way, shape or form, whether it's compelled speech or compelled vaccinations. I believe the state has no role in the way we interact on an interpersonal level. And I don't think you're entitled to your own pronouns the same way as I'm not entitled to my own adjectives.
10 seconds.
So that is what I would say. Anything that's compulsory is authoritarian and dogmatic and has no place in a democratic society.
All right, round number 2. Echo. Kids should be taught about pronouns at an early age. What's your say on that?
That should be, because teaching pronoun is. So I came from a country that we didn't really understand about. We didn't really talk a lot about diversity, right? So diversity, when we talk about diversity, it's just like, oh, put it aside. But when I came here, part of the diversity itself is something that not a lot of people know or understand. But they just like diversity is diversity, but there's no definition, the right definition of diversity itself. And teaching kids pronoun is something that part of understanding the diversity in order to achieve the inclusivity itself. That's what my point of view.
Well, you might not be able to see me, I'm that fucking short. People say how tall I am. I've been overlooked by the industry for 10 years. But my view is that this gender ideology has no place in a primary school. We don't teach children about sex to a specific age because they don't have the conceptual tools for it. And most of the people who espouse this gender ideology have a very hard time explaining it in a coherent manner. And as I said before, these ideas need to be embraced rather than imposed. And if you can't persuade people as to the legitimacy or the relevance of the necessity for imposing this compelled speech, I don't see what chance it's got. And I don't think it should be taught to children. I think children need to be learning maths and science and English, and we're falling behind the rest of the world in science, technology, English and mathematics, for the simple reason that we're concerning ourselves on these trivial ideas about what constitutes gender. And I said to someone the other day, the worst thing about being non-binary is not deciding whether you're at risk of testicular cancer or ovarian cancer. On any given day, you might need a pap smear or your balls tested. But so that's where I stand on that issue, albeit not very tall. Thank you.
All right. Echo, I've got a question for you. Do you guys think that potentially people who are non-binary or transgender don't feel seen? They don't see themselves at a deeper level, and hence they want to control the speech and the labels that are put onto themselves as a form of being seen? Now the problem with that is, how far can that really go? Because if they're not seeing themselves, then why should other people be forced to see them in that way?
Do I need to stand up?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are a human being. As a human being, we are a naming being. Did you get the?
So we identify things.
Yeah, we identify things.
We label them to understand.
We label things. I can stand on this chair and say this is stage, not chair, anymore. But this is chair for us if we sit down on it.
What about like basic biology though, like X chromosome, Y chromosome?
Yes, that's another thing, right? That's why research by any means is about to create a naming, creating a standardized understanding of things, right? So X chromosome, Y chromosome. So what you are asking about being seen, it's not. If we don't name ourselves, that doesn't mean we are invisible, isn't it? Like, we're not wearing the cape of invisibility. It's not that. We still be seen. It's just people will see us as similar with others, like common. We are not being seen as individual. That's probably the best way to understand why the non-binary people need to name themselves.
Okay, cool. Well, all right. Thank you very much for sharing that. Guys, give a round of applause. Clay, what do you think? Have a mic.
I could say a lot on this, but...
well, you got the mic. It's on.
Stand up or not. But yeah, I just think that people don't need to, like... I don't judge anyone. I think, you are who you are. You don't have to identify as something. If you're transgender, then you should be accepted. If you're lesbian or if you're gay, like, who cares? Just accept people for who they are. And I don't think you should have to, like, identify yourself as something. But this whole society is doing that now, and I think it's just ridiculous. Like, where does it end? Like, children will be like, identifying themselves soon, and they don't even understand that. So that's just, I don't judge anyone, but I just think it's gone too far. So, each to their own. Set people for who they are. That's just me.
All right, final round. No time limit. Take the mic, and you guys can just have a rebuttal, have a conversation. The question is, individuals should have the choice to address people. Enforcing upon people, language upon people can be seen as tyranny.
Well, I think it is tyranny. I mean, you can't enforce me to address you in any way. I mean, other than politely, I think. That's the only way you should be able to enforce language codes. And those things can't be enforced by the state. They've got to be accepted social behaviours and social norms, and that can't be enforced or regulated by the criminal law. To borrow someone else's phrase, if I had to say, you have to use my pronouns or adjectives which are handsome and brilliant, it'd be ridiculous, even though it's largely true. I don't think it has any place in a functional democratic society. We get so concerned about gender and identity, and just be yourself. No one is really oppressing you in the way that previous generations of minorities have been oppressed. And if you really think you're invisible, then go and try and sell a copy of The Big Issue in the city. And that's a real invisibility cloak, because everyone will walk past you like you don't exist. And they're the really invisible people in this society who are overlooked and marginalised, while we concern ourselves over these privileged and trivial nonsense debates about pronouns and gender, when the real issue in this world is not identity but class.
I do think it's actually what can be enforced and what cannot be enforced, right? There's a limitation in we're not living in the we still live in the freedom state. We still live we're not living in North Korea, a communist country. And that's the thing that we need to understand first, right? I do think state enforcing is not about like, hey, you have to have this pronouns. What state can do is, this is the pronouns that can be used. He, him, his, she, hers, and then he, they, they, them. That's kind of thing that.
How many are there?
I think a lot.
Too many.
Too many?
Too many.
Ridiculous.
Is it more than 10?
Yeah, I think so.
Does anyone know in the crowd how many pronouns there are?
Does it matter?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well, if people would like to be addressed in that way, then I think it does
If
matter.
someone asks to be addressed in a certain way, why does it matter how many ways they would like to be addressed?
Well, it's good to know. It's general knowledge.
Yeah, but like, if I said to you, if you said I prefer to be referred to as, I don't know, Mr. Red, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
I can be polite and refer to you that way, or I can be aggressive.
I might find that offensive, though.
No, if I
really?
how you, if you've got a preference.
Yeah.
It's obviously up to the person.
Do you actually know, though? Or is that
the how many?
Yeah.
I think the list is something like 18 or 20.
No, because there was a guy on
I'm not 100%.
on TV, on what's his name, that said there was over 100, or like 99 different gender pronouns.
There's 99 different pronouns.
They're like COVID variants at this point.
It's keep developing. Yes, but and then there's the talk about judging people, right? There is a difference between judging people and showing up. So there's difference between judging and showing up and being accountable. That's two different sides of things, right? So if I show up, I say I am in a society that says the right one is they, not he, him, but I show up as he, him, and people saying, oh, I'm being judged because I'm wrong. So that's probably it's their judgment, not my
Rob.
Okay. All right, awesome. Thank you very much for that.
And it was on Piers Morgan. That was the TV show that it was on.
One of Jeffrey Epstein's friends.
That's a different debate.
All right, let's get the crowd involved. Do we have any questions anyone would like to address within the crowd? To Corey, to Echo. Any feedback? We got one man in the back, this handsome gentleman.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so with all the confusion going on in the world right now, don't you think that these pronouns are creating more confusion for the current generation and for the generation that's going to come ahead of us? Like the kids right now, they're already confused with the way the world is changing, you know, technology, religion, beliefs, culture. Is this another aspect to it which is just going to completely derail them? That's my question.
Who is that question directed to?
Echo.
Echo.
I can take this one for you, Echo, if you like. You want to handle it? I'm selfless like that.
I will ask you to this point.
I'd like Corey to answer it also after. I want to see both sides.
Yeah, sure. To this point, do anyone in this world know everything? Is there anyone in this world who knows everything?
Mark McGowan.
Yeah. So I do believe confusion is not about. It's about a potential to learn something, right? It's not about. It's about potential to learn something new. That's what I believe in. So it's something that if you are confused, then learn something new.
Any other questions?
I want Corey to.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I'd hate to be a kid growing up now with the modern digital age, and even worse than that, I'd hate to be a parent trying to control what your kids say. I mean, it's hard enough being a kid. When I was 14, I wanted to play for the West Coast Eagles. And luckily I didn't pursue that career because I would have ended up a crackhead. But it's difficult enough to be a young child, adolescent, to go through puberty and to make sense of the world and find out who you are and who you are in relation to the world. So I think it is needlessly complicating for children, and I don't think it's got a place in a modern education system. I think kids need to be learning the basics of social skills, mathematics, and science, which where I think this debate really belongs in science and biology, because you know your reproductive organs determine what you are as a sex, and you don't get to chop and change. Well, maybe you do get to chop and change, but it's ridiculous, I think. And when I was young, you know, modern leftist discourse was concerned with you know, corporate power. And now it's all about gender and identity, and I think this way of this confusion is a way of disorienting people and isolating them, and I think that's a tactic of totalitarianism, is to make people confused and unsure, and I don't think it's got any place in a modern education system. And you've seen what's happened in the United States and how divisive this is. Ultimately, that stuff is not bringing people together in a helpful way. It's dividing them at a social level, and it's starting early. And I don't think that's healthy in any way, and I think that's something we all need to be vigilant about going forward.
Thank you very much, Corey. We'll get a quick 30-second input from the judges up the front.
I just want to say my name's Katie, and I'm actually a DJ at the Court Hotel, so this is something that I feel really, thank you, it's something I feel really, really passionate about. Pronouns aren't something for, I'm going to assume, a majority of the people in the room who are pretty confident. Like, I know that I'm a she. I'm sure that everybody else up here, I can only assume that you guys are pretty confident that you guys were born into the right bodies. Pronouns are for the people who don't feel that they were confident that they were born into the right bodies. And in the way that I'm sure that you guys don't understand, because you guys are so confident in who you are. This is for the kids who aren't confident, and this is why it's a great time to bring it up and educate in schools, because it's for the kid that doesn't understand and is a little bit confused and doesn't know, oh, well, I am born a boy and all of my friends who are boys are playing with trucks, but maybe I want to play with dolls. Or for the girl that wants to play with dolls, it's for those kids. And the best thing you can do is educate yourself, and by laughing and saying, oh, there's so many, what you're doing is actually like laughing at those kids that can't defend themselves and like can't stand up for themselves, can't maybe communicate in the best way. So by you saying, hi, my name is Katie, I'm like a she, her, you're actually helping somebody else out who isn't confident to say that and isn't, you know, maybe doesn't know how to communicate that, but you've started the conversation by you being so confident in who you are. You've given them the opportunity to be who they are.
Excellent point, Katie. Thank you very much for that. Very well articulated. Thank you very much.
As someone who is working and learning in that area, I'm studying it, I feel like children shouldn't, like, say, boys shouldn't be forced to do masculine things. They should be able to wear dresses if they want, or play with dolls if they want. It shouldn't have to be playing with blocks or trucks, all those sort of things. And same with females, they shouldn't have to be just playing with dolls or just playing with dresses. They should be able to play with the trucks or the blocks or whatever it is. They shouldn't be forced to just do what's been the norm for that particular gender. Yeah.
But you say, they shouldn't be forced, but then Echo's saying we should be forced to use the right pronouns.
I don't think children should have to learn their pronouns. They are born the way that they are, and they should be able to, they can learn that in the future. I think it's too confusing for the children to learn right now, because they're still figuring out their own, how their own emotions. Yeah. How to, I still have children who they don't know how to say something they don't like. They get that, instead of speaking their own mind, they get angry and they might push or something like that. They don't know what they want or how to express themselves.
But do you think that problem as an adult?
Yeah, exactly. So imagine that as a child. Exactly, they don't know what they want. Yeah. So it shouldn't. Yeah, they should have an opportunity to ask for, say, a dress. I have children coming up to me and saying, "Can you please put this dress on for me?" And I say yes, because if they want to wear a dress, they can wear a dress.
But doesn't this give them the opportunity to learn more about pronouns in the same way that kids know their pronouns and they know how to talk to each other grammatically? This is just educating kids from an early age so that growing up, it's not going to be a weird thing, as we all know kids can be mean. If you teach them young, doesn't that help?
Yeah, that sort of thing, but you wouldn't teach them the whole name thing, she, them, whatever. Yeah. Because they don't understand what them is. What is that?
They understand what he or she is, so why wouldn't they understand what them is?
It's just, they haven't been taught it by their own parents. They haven't, it just doesn't make sense to them. All they know is that they've been called a boy their whole entire life.
Katie, you mentioned before that it's for them to navigate through whatever they're going. Do you mean that it's a confusion? That fundamentally they're a bit confused about their identity and who they really are? And if it's a confusion, then what is the clarity version of this point?
I can only speak on behalf of.
Thank you. I can only speak on behalf of myself, being a straight female. But from all of my interactions with trans people or with gay people, with anybody in the LGBTQI+ community, thank you. For some people, it's been easier than for others. So in the same way of, a kid growing up who might not know that they're gay or might not know that they're trans, then you're giving them an opportunity to be like, I don't feel like a boy at the moment, so I'm going to go by they, them for now, and that suits me now.
Cool.
They might tomorrow be like, no, I feel like a boy. Does it really matter? Does it, like, it doesn't?
And honestly, if that's something that you would like to be called, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to respect you, I'm happy to respect your space. So I'm also happy to move on to the next part of the show, which is, yeah, because this topic is a beautiful topic. I think there's going to be a round 2 definitely one day. And again, this wasn't about attacking, it was about bringing a conversation to it. Now, I've learned so many things just being here, having this beautiful conversation, the way you articulated yourself. Pure bliss. Echo, thank you very much for coming on, for sharing, for being an ambassador for the LGBTQI plus movement. I really appreciate you. Everyone give him a massive round of applause. And Corey White on the left, thank you for joining. Thank you for being able to share your perspective and your view. And
thank you for having me.
Anytime, anytime. Yeah.
Ahmad's done a great job here, but I've taken this one at short notice. So forgive me if I'm a little bit proppy. Psychonauts, give me a round of applause if you've done any psychedelics. You absolute trippers. I don't know, I had a life-changing experience doing DMT actually. First time I did DMT, I didn't know if I was going to die, shit or come all at the same time. And when you say it like that to people, it's not really enticing. But I gained an enormous amount out of recreational psychedelic use. I'll tell you a quick story. I carried an enormous amount of grief and guilt, particularly about the death of my mother. And I remember one day I came home and my friend was in the backyard with a shade cloth on the lawn, and they were passing around a vaporizer, and they said, have a go on this. And anyway, I did, and I had a convulsion, right? And I felt this like snake-type motion ravel up my spine, and I saw this enormous blue cloud come out of my chest and disappear into the ether. And afterwards I felt this enormous weight of forgiveness, like the universe had forgiven me for something. And I'm glad that stuff is illegal for that reason, because I don't think anyone should feel any forgiveness for things. So that's all I would have to tell you about that. It's also the subject that every white guy talks about on a podcast. I don't know if you've heard Joe Rogan talk about it. It's wild, man, but everyone likes to talk about DMT like it's a spiritual thing, and it really is. People talk about God, and God is not a religion but a spiritual bond, as one of my favourite rappers says. And if you've got the misfortune to be looking through the cesspit of dating apps in your 30s, you'll notice that people aren't identifying as religious anymore. There's a decline in that, but people are more and more identifying as spiritual. And I think that's a direct result of psychedelic use spreading throughout society and people having an intellectual curiosity and using substances that indigenous cultures have used for thousands and thousands of years. And some of the, I guess, the pagan churches out of ancient Greece, Dionysus, they were all using some form of psychedelic, which what's not disputed by historians is that they were using psychedelics. What is disputed is what it was. So on that note, I will throw over to my friend Phil here, who I believe is the resident priest in the building. Is there any other priests in here? No, they're all before the Royal Commission. No, just kidding. So I'll throw this one over to you, mate. Bat and change.
How you all doing? I'm supposed to be sharing the podium with Imam Fazal, and he was sitting there with me, and I thought, I'm creaming it, because this guy just would not stop talking. So I thought, I'm just going to sit there and smile and nod and, you know, look cute and cuddly. But no, he nicked off, so it's just me. Psychedelics, it's a great topic. Look, I had a few questions. I thought we were going to be monitored, but is it just free for all, is it?
Go free for all.
Free for all. Okay.
The Imam ran away from the psychedelics.
No, I'm just too good looking, and he was intimidated. No, he had his wife and kids down in the car, and they had to nick off. That's just fair enough. I've got wife and kids, I just don't take him anywhere. So here's the thing with psychedelics, right? So I'm not going to glorify my past. An illusion is to think that someone who goes into the ministry has always been a Christian and a good boy. And I can honestly tell you that's not true. Certainly on my side of the story, I got into some crazy stuff. I left home when I was 16, and I tried everything legal and illegal that I could get my hands on. And it wasn't until my mid-20s that I actually came to the Christian faith. Now, here's the point. We're talking about, not my story, but psychedelics per se. I think what we have to acknowledge about psychedelics is they're fun, right? Until you get a bad trip. You get a bad trip, you think the world's going to end. You think your life's going to end. You can't control your responses. You are in a bad place. But the thing we have to realise about psychedelics, friends, is there is this transcendent moment when you feel like your body is no longer attached to some spiritual realm. You know, in Christendom, in Christianity, you call that, there is a spirit and a body, and together they're called a soul. So if there is actually, through the process of taking an illicit drug, the ability to separate the two, you do expose yourself to a spiritual, non-physical element. Fair enough, Corey?
Yeah, absolutely.
The dilemma you've got is, what is so enticing about the hallucinogen is actually the great danger of it. Or should I say, the great danger in the hallucinogen is actually the attraction, which is the separation from the real of the physical world into a spiritual realm or a soulish realm, however you want to describe it, void of physical. And so there is this moment, which is not really a moment, it can last hours, where you feel quite detached from the world. And it's quite spiritual in the sense that, does everyone understand what I mean by every sort of person? Every person, right, understands there's a physical element to Phil Lewis, and there's this deep spiritual part of me that, had I not gone into the ministry, I'm still a spiritual being, right? I still have the emotion. I still have this invisible connection with people. I love them. I hate them. I despise them. I'm jealous. This is a spiritual thing. It's not physical. I can look at this handsome young man and despise him because he's so good looking. I haven't physically touched him. With this spiritual discernment. So here's the problem for me with the psychedelic or hallucinogens is we find ourselves, for those who have done it, you find yourself in this position where reality, being aligned with the physical, now becomes somewhat detached from this somewhat enlightened state. Now here's the problem under hallucinogens, as I was saying before. The problem is also the attraction. You're now detached. And in that detachment, you have this problem where you have lost the ability to distinguish what's reality. Like Corey was saying before about this experience of this snake-like substance coming up and this head coming and taking off. Now, the question is, did it actually happen? Corey says, yeah. What's that?
Things energetically happens, especially like in our normal a normal day, whilst we're not in any sort of psychedelic or in any sort of drugs, we can't sense that immensely, that strongly. But when we're on psychedelics, we actually can sense the things energetically so much more than what we're capable of when we're not on psychedelics. That is the, some say the third eye, some say all the senses of the body actually, some sort of get, what's the word, enlightens, or some sort of, just expands or the capacity of the feeling, basically. So whatever you are seeing or feeling that is actually energetically it's happening, that's why you're seeing or hearing it or feeling it. I don't think you are actually seeing or hearing anything or feeling anything that is not really happening.
So Corey's friends who were on the shake did they see this thing?
Oh, he was talking about an energy that was like a snake sort of like kind of energy that was coming down from the spine and just, and that is the core energy, the spinal energy. And sometimes when, I don't know, it obviously depends on the human being what are they going to experience, but
Let's give Jack a shot.
I do believe that there was actually an energy form, but he should say about it more than me.
Well, were you finished? Or I thought you were going to make a point after that.
No. We weren't really asking a question. Okay. Free for you.
Well, like, were you going to say that because nobody else could like perceive it, that it was completely subjective and it wasn't like there was no substance to it at all?
Explain subjective to me in your words.
Like, not independent of the person taking the substance.
Was it it's not, the question is not, was it an emotional or real experience for the person, because it feels so real. Like, anyone who's been in love? Please, someone put their hand and say, I've been in love. So, is that physically tangible by anybody around it? No, it's observable, the way you react and you change. But for the person experiencing love, it's extremely real.
Right.
So your perception of the reality changes because what you're going through in that moment, correct? When I'm in love, I've been happily married for way too many years to talk about. When you're in love, your reality changes because it affects your values. It affects everything. It affects your perception of life. And so for Corey, something happened in that moment where it was a highly, let's use the word spiritual experience. It's a highly spiritual / emotional / you can't really say visible, but spiritually visible for Corey.
Right.
Nobody else could see it. So in that sense, I agree. It's real. It's a real experience for Corey. But the problem for me is the psychedelic has, while we say it has detached the physical from the spiritual, the psychedelic manipulates or confuses the brain's ability to determine reality from, and when I say reality, I'm saying the physical reality. Does that make sense?
Okay. So my issue with that is there is an assumption that what we are all perceiving right now is objective reality, but that assumption's made on the fact that we are all perceiving it right now. But what level of reality we're perceiving is based on like the chemistry that's going through our brain. And the thing is, the reason why we interpret such a different reality when we take psychedelics is because you're changing that fundamental chemistry. So if there was such an objective level of reality, it shouldn't be so easily altered just by changing the chemistry in the brain. And the only foundation for our assumption to say that this is the objective reality and that dude who's on psychedelics is on a psychosis is the fact that we're all perceiving this. But everybody who takes these psychedelics is going to the same place. And it's not just on the same substance, it's on different substances. This is why the capacity for religious experience is possible, because these places that people are going to, the reason why they're being referred to as like religious experiences is because they are so similar to what's described in the Bible. People like myself going into a white light taken by white entities, being given messages that literally changed my life completely for the better. I was going through a very nihilistic path before I ever encountered psychedelics. I was definitely destined for a bad path, I would say. And I had this sort of mystical experience, which completely humbled me. It actually changed me from being like a very stone-cold atheist to like, all right, I really don't know what's out there. And this experience, if this is what Christians refer to as God, I actually can respect that. I can respect that point of view completely now. But if everybody was on, let's say, acid, right, and we're all like perceiving reality in this way, maybe not like going into the white light and seeing entities, but there is a very like common effect of psychedelics, which is that you can actually completely identify with people around you. So you'll, it's called ego death, and you'll lose touch with your sense of self. And if you don't go too far into this, you can induce something called the Truman Show effect, which is where you feel like everybody around you is completely interconnected with your mind. So they can read your thoughts and, basically everybody is just like insanely connected. If everybody, let's say there was like raining acid outside and like we didn't build up a tolerance to it. 20 seconds. Okay. That would be our reality. We would all be perceiving this like state of unity. And if somebody like walked out with an umbrella and they were identifying with themselves, we'd be like, you're in a state of psychosis because you're identifying with the self, because it's different to what we're all perceiving. So all I'm saying is that this idea that,
Time.
Okay.
Pastor, what do you have to say?
Sorry, question.
Well, I just want to hear a 30-second rebuttal to what you've just said, Jack just said.
Not so much a rebuttal as just a qualification that, we talk about through that experience you experience some sort of an awakening that makes you realise there could be a God of some description, right? Do you think part of the problem for our modern world, a secular society, is that we're so embraced in materialism and so embraced in this culture, it would take a psychedelic for a young person to accept the reality there's more to life than just money and career and this?
I mean, I'd say that's why I'd be like pro psychedelics, because I agree that is kind of like where we're at, and psychedelics do help a lot of people kind of change that point of view.
So you think it's a necessary evil?
I wouldn't refer to it as an evil if it's doing good.
Well, it doesn't do good long-term good. I can tell you, I'm an old man now. I know it doesn't have a long-term good effect.
How so, though?
It does muck with your emotional control. It mucks with your social capacities. It mucks with your perception of reality. You do have flashbacks.
Obviously, I've taken quite a few psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, personally, I haven't had those experiences. I know there are people who have had bad trips as well, but I know like the majority of people I've talked to have only really come out of it on the other side with like positive things to say. Bad experiences, and I've had bad trips before, but I've come out of it on the other side with a positive feeling and like feeling stronger for it. So I wouldn't necessarily agree that psychedelics, if taken, have like a long-term negative effect myself.
5 seconds.
I'm done with that.
Cool. Question number 2. Are psychedelics the work of the devil?
You want me to start with this one?
I want you to take the floor.
Can I just say, I'm not your normal sort of pastor kind of
60 seconds.
Guy. How long?
60 seconds.
60 seconds. Okay, so my view on the devil is Hollywood has done a spectacular job of making him a big, scary guy. Everyone's afraid of him. He's got horns and a hoofs and all the rest of it. The fact is, I think he takes a lot of credit for what people do. And he's happy about that. He's happy for people to do ill against each other and him take the credit. Look what I made them do. You didn't make them do nothing. It's their human nature. They're greedy. They steal stuff. They're angry. They punch people. Don't take credit for that, you thief. So I think the devil's a dole bludger. So in short, Do I think the psychedelics are the devil's work? No. The psychedelics are the product of very clever people who have found chemicals and put them together and made some incredible products. God put everything in. Like if we're going to take a Christian worldview, God created everything, man uses it. And whether they use it for good or bad, it's up to them.
Thank you very much. Jack?
Yeah, I agree.
You think that the devil's work?
No, I mean, I agree. It's not the devil's work.
It's not
for those reasons, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'll just add a brief comment there before we move on, Hamad.
Let's go.
Some of the greatest, well, arguably the greatest advancement in modern medicine was made by a guy called Francis Crick, who was on LSD and discovered the double helix, which is the structure of DNA. And where would modern medicine be without a doctor taking acid in the US? It's quite wild to get your head around.
Yeah. Well, not only that, we look into shamanistic cultures of the Amazon, and we see interesting technologies, you could call it. So there's a brew called ayahuasca, and the way that this brew is created is from two plants. One is the ayahuasca vine, and one is the chacruna leaf. Now, the psychoactive component is within the leaf, the DMT. But if you were to eat the DMT leaf on its own, nothing would happen. There is an enzyme in your stomach called the monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which would cancel the effects of that DMT. However, somehow these primitive indigenous people figured out that if you connect that leaf with the ayahuasca vine, which contains a monoamine inhibitor, it's a fucking big word. Yeah, monoamine inhibitor canceller, right? You feel the psychoactive effects. Now, when we ask the shamans, Pastor, how did you figure this out? You know what they say? They said the plants told us. Now, out of 150,000 plus plants, counting, can you imagine the amounts of trial and error, the amounts of deaths of people from eating toxic plants that have to go through to figure out that two combination? What do you think?
What do I think the plants told them?
Yeah.
Were they smoking it at the time when they said that? No, the question is, to me, my understanding is that we're actually made in God's image. Now, we're in a fallen state right now, granted, otherwise we wouldn't have all the troubles in the world, but God gifted us with incredible intelligence. I mean, incredible intelligence. To think of the things we've accomplished is mind-boggling. I attribute that to God's brilliance in handing us the ability to discover. Did they discover it on their own? Probably. They say the plants told them. I wasn't there. I can't actually answer that. But I do have a great belief that humans are capable of incredible things, incredible good and incredible bad. And, yeah, I really can't comment on their comment as to whether... I think people are just brilliant. I think.
Cool. Thank you very much. We'll move to the next question. Speaking to other entities other than the ones mentioned in the Bible are demonic entities.
Are you talking under the influence of a psychedelic?
Under the influence of anything. So you could be meditating and you're speaking to another entity. You could be having a Shivas Regal and an entity speaking to you. Whatever it works.
But maybe it would be interesting, like the entities that you meet on psychedelics, would they be demons or demonic entities?
Yeah, would they be guised as good characters, but rather they're there for a sinister purpose? Yeah. 2 minutes.
What would the pronouns be, though?
I've got to say, Corey did a smack up, just a bang up job in that last session, eh? He was good, man. You were good, Corey. All right, so do I think that speaking to other entities or not under the influence of it's such a broad question, without psychedelics, is speaking to an evil entity or
the entities that you encounter in a psychedelic experience, are they evil entities?
We are talking psychedelics, okay.
Yeah.
As long as we're still in that forum, cool. I don't think anybody could really qualify that. Okay, so from my perspective, it could be angelic, it could be demonic, it could be purely personal hallucination. I don't think anybody could qualify. Because think about this. Like while I suppose most religious people, like myself, I hate that word, but anyway, would like to demonize the process. The fact is, God could speak to you, an angel could speak to you through that moment. So I think the suggestion that it would be purely demonic would be very narrow-minded understanding of God, that God couldn't break through and talk through and speak through, even in your most hallucinative state. I've been in some incredibly bad places, man, I'm telling you, and I felt like God's spoken to me. With or without hallucinogens, I felt like God has really spoken to me. Yeah.
How did God speak to you? Like, what is it? Is it a male voice? Is it a female voice?
You know, it's. Well, I'm not going to preach at you. Okay, so there's this story. As quickly as I can, there's a story about a guy who runs away from a queen. She hates him. She wants to kill him. He's running away anyway. He's sitting there, and he's so petrified. He just wants to die. He wants it all to end. And then the earth quakes, and he says, and God was not in the earthquake. And then the wind blew, and God was not in the wind. And he says, but then this still small voice, God spoke to him. And so for most of us, I think if you're telling me that God comes and speaks to you, I'd be concerned if you tell me that there's this audible voice. I'd be encouraging you to get off whatever medication you're taking. Mostly, God will speak through Scripture, through the Word, and through yourself, just confirming what is true, what is natural, be right. I believe that we have the capacity to discern right from wrong.
4 seconds.
I believe we have the capacity to discern right from wrong, and often on an hallucinogen, what's actually happening is you're realising the truth that you already know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
2 minutes.
I think that a massive thing that psychedelics do is they do realize your own truth for sure. I don't know though if I'd say it's necessarily such a bad thing if you're getting in touch with like angels and stuff like that, or light beings and stuff on psychedelics. I wouldn't necessarily myself say for somebody to get off of that. I think if there was if they were receiving messages on how to improve their life, and it did sound, it wasn't some crazy messages that was inviting them to do some evil stuff. It was really positive messages, like the ones that most people do get. Myself, I got some positive messages. If they weren't integrating that and they just kept going back to the substance to kind of get that feeling, that positive feeling, I'd for sure say there's a problem. But yeah, I think for the most part, most people who take these psychedelics, have these sort of experiences, do feel like they are getting in touch with a greater truth. And there isn't really actually much of a desire to keep returning to it anyway, because they feel like they kind of are connected with what they really want, which is probably not to be a drug addict. It's probably to go out and pursue whatever they want to do. But for myself, I was using psychedelics a lot, and I think that's kind of what's necessary, or at least it was what was necessary for me when I was in a really dark place, and it just pulled me in a completely different direction.
Cool. Thank you very much, Jack. I really appreciate the input. Over there, guys.
I've looked for love in all the same old places. Found a bottom of the bottle's always dry. But when you poured out your heart, I didn't waste it. 'Cause there's nothing like your love to get me high. One taught me love, one taught me patience, and one taught me pain. Now I'm so amazing, I've loved and I've lost. That's not what I see. Look what I've got. Look what you taught me. And for that I say thank you. Next, next, thank you. Next, next, thank you. Next, I'm so freaking grateful for my ex. Thank you. Next, next, thank you. Next, next, thank you. Next, I'm so freaking. And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out what's in my head, and I'm feeling a little peculiar. And so I wake in the morning step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I say, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the show. Have a good night.
Welcome back to the final bracket of the debates, ladies and gentlemen. We have the vegans on the left, and then we have the farmers on the right.
All right, so we're going to start off with the first question. And you've got 2 minutes. You know what? Let's just free roll it. All right? Who wants to free roll it? Yeah?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go. All right, your statement, Tash, saying, if you're not a vegan, you're an animal abuser. Please elaborate.
Yes, so all animal industries, including the meat, dairy and egg industries, leather, wool, fur, feather, scales, they're all inherently abusive and they all murder animals to make profit from them or once they're considered no longer profitable to the industries. Animals are blatantly abused in these industries. I could run plenty of examples. I'll start with the meat industry. An example is pigs. They are 6 months old when they're forced into carbon dioxide gas chambers and they literally burn from the inside out. We've been outside these slaughterhouses hearing these pigs scream. We've been inside piggeries and seen babies dying on the floor having seizures. We've seen mothers in these crates with tears in their eyes because they spend their entire life in a crate, forced to repeatedly give birth to these babies. This is the meat industry. Let's move on to the dairy industry where mothers are raped and once they give birth after a 9-month pregnancy, her baby is often immediately taken away from her. Why? So you can drink her breast milk. If her baby is born male, he's murdered. He's shot in the head on the spot by the farmer or he's sent to a slaughterhouse to be processed as veal. We're talking about babies just days to weeks old. This is the dairy industry. In the egg industry, chickens are forced to lay hundreds more eggs than they're naturally bred to. And the male chicks are macerated on their first day of life because they're born male. So that's the same in the dairy industry. The males are murdered as babies because they're not considered profitable. These industries subject animals to enslavement, rape, torture, abuse, and murder. And they should have the right to live just like we do. And we need to stop oppressing species. If you don't believe me, you can go onto YouTube and watch Dominion. It's an Australian documentary. We've both met people who took the footage in these industries. They suffer from severe PTSD from what they've witnessed. They risk their lives to get this footage. It's not propaganda. See it for yourself. We've both been inside these places and we've seen what is happening to non-human animals, and it is an absolute atrocity. It is more than abuse. It's the largest Holocaust in history, with 3 trillion individuals brutally murdered every year just for
You've
human
never
food
visited
consumption.
my place.
How do you know?
Because if you had, you'd know that you're talking a load of shit.
And what animals do you farm? What is your industry, may I
I run a
ask?
goat dairy.
First and foremost,
I run a goat dairy. Now, for a start, we don't rape our animals.
Yes, you use euphemisms such as artificial insemination, which
I
is
don't
rape.
use artificial insemination. I run my bucks with my herd. My bucks get the girls when the girls are in season, and only then. And it's their choice, nature's choice. We allow our kids to stay on their mother. We only take the excess milk. So you're talking a load of shit.
But you're making profit from animals, right? They're commodities to you.
No,
you
I
have
sell
ownership
their
over
milk
them.
so that they can get food. They get fed. They get fed better than I do. Because
our argument here is that
no, your argument
in the first place to be made
your argument has nothing to
commodified.
do with exactly what I do. So until
You are abusing your animals.
No,
That's
I'm
what
not.
you do. Yes.
Let me ask
You're
you
making
something.
profit
If
from
I'm
them.
abusing my animals, why is it that I can walk out in the paddock, I can call them by name, and every single one of my animals come up and want to rub their faces on me? If I'm abusing them, why are they so friendly to me?
Can you tell me what happens once they're considered no longer profitable to you?
They are
What do you
not.
do with
They're
them?
never considered no longer profitable to me.
Once they can no longer produce breast milk, they reach a certain age
Well,
where they
you
can't
see,
be
that's
pregnant.
the other thing where you say that we rape them. The thing is, my goats, I've got one there that's been milking for 5 years, and she produces 3.5
You didn't
litres of
answer
milk
the
a day.
question. You didn't answer our question.
What question was that?
Once they're considered no longer profitable, when they can no longer
I eat the
produce
damn
breast
things
milk,
because I'm a canine.
what happens with them?
I eat them because I'm a canine.
And is that abuse or not?
No, it's not. I eat the damn things.
How do they die?
How do they die? I kill them.
You kill them. Is
Myself.
that not abuse?
No.
If you were to be killed, would that be a form of abuse?
No.
No, okay.
I've done that. I've actually killed human beings. I was a soldier. I'm an ex-soldier.
This is your farmer.
I'm an ex-soldier. I'm not everyday farmer. I'm just happen to be an ex-soldier. So I have killed people. But I have killed people at the instigation of the government. Not my choice.
Yeah, but you murder animals and you
No,
abuse
I
them
don't murder
and you make
animals.
profit from them.
I don't murder animals, dear.
Yes, you do.
Can I
No.
just
Can you tell me how?
Sorry, can I
Sorry.
just interject very quickly? I think where we're getting lost here in the conversation is you guys want to know at what time do the animals get killed? When they're
Okay.
do the animals get killed when they're sick? Do they die of old age?
Well, by the
or
time
are they killed prematurely?
Okay, by the time the animals are no longer viable as milkers, they're 16 or 17 years of age.
Mhm.
Now, if you want to put that into an equivalent human being age, they're 75.
Okay.
And what do we do with human beings when they're 75? Do we kill them?
Well, a lot of people would like to. I'm 70.
But what we're saying here, regardless of whether they're murdered or not, which they blatantly are murdered, the act of actually breeding animals into existence and using them as slaves and commodities to consume their breast milk is absolutely unnecessary. We do not need to be enslaving others of different species to be consuming their breast milk. Replace it with humans and you'll see how immoral it is. What if we got a group of female women and enslaved them and started stealing their breast milk from them? And there's no doubt that their babies are taken away from them. I think you're blatantly lying there. Their babies are taken away
Sorry,
from them
but you've
so he
never
can
been
make
to my
profit
place,
from her
dear.
breast milk.
You need to
He
come and
wants
have a
her
look.
breast milk in your mouth. He doesn't want it in the babies. The babies are murdered.
No, they're not. They're still. My babies are running around in the paddock.
What
with their
happens
mums.
to the males?
The males? Well, those that I can't sell as breeding stock, I keep until they're around about 2 years old. And then I eat them. I'm a carnivore. I'll admit it. I like to eat meat.
Actually, you have the choice. You're not a carnivore
No,
because
I
we're
do
all
have a
omnivores
choice,
and we can
and my
thrive and
choice-
survive on a plant-based
My
diet.
choice is I like to eat meat.
Wait 1 second. You just said you're not a carnivore. What do you mean by that?
Well, humans are omnivores, so that means we can thrive and survive on a plant-based diet. So
Yeah,
he's
but
not a
hang
carnivore
on, we
because
are
otherwise you'd
omnivores.
only be able
You-
to thrive and
excuse
survive
me,
on flesh.
Excuse me, dear. You said omnivore, which means that we eat both meat and plant-based products. We have a choice.
Yeah. All right.
And
So
just because you have made your choice, don't put your choice on me. I want to be able to choose for myself.
All right. So just to quickly touch on the can humans thrive on a plant-based diet solely, no animals. It is completely doable. Leading Yeah, so leading dietetic associations, people that study the human diet around the world, are all at the consensus that we can thrive on a plant-based diet.
We got a choice.
In Dubai, you're not allowed to drink. In Saudi Arabia, you're not allowed to drink. In Australia, you are. Like it comes down to choice. So just because you've chosen not to eat meat does not mean the next person has to. Though. And where the issue is, and I'm not taking any sides here, as a meat eater myself, like just because you've chosen not to eat meat, no one would bat an eye if you don't eat meat.
Sure.
The problem is when you try to push your ideologies on other people to eat meat.
I'm glad you brought this up.
I
am glad you brought this up because that's an important thing to consider. The fact that we have a choice. You're taking the choice away from animals. They have a right to live, and by eating meat...
Do you drink?
Drink what?
Do you drink liquor? Do you smoke weed?
No, I do not.
You do not?
No, I do not. No. Okay, I'll just continue with that. I'll just finish that at least. So we're saying we have the choice. We do have the choice. You can choose to consume animals if you want to. You can murder and abuse them via farmers and paying your money to farmers to do it. But you do have a choice, and that's because the animals do not have a choice. They are forced into carbon dioxide gas chambers, as Tash said, in the pig industry, or at least they're going to have a shot to their head. If any of you were in those animals' position, I'm sure you wouldn't want that to happen to you. If your oppressor has a choice, you would want them to choose the choice of non-violence and peace.
What about plants? Do they have a choice?
Do plants have a choice? Are you saying they're sentient and they have a nervous system?
They've proven that they do. It's been proven they do.
You're a plant killer!
They have proven that plants have
So
senses.
you're telling me, everyone in the crowd, that slicing a carrot is the same as slitting a pig's throat?
Yes!
Do you realise how ridiculous that is? They do not have a central nervous system.
Hey guys, we're gonna let them in the front talk about it. All right?
It has.
Yeah, we've got a question here.
He's got a point. Sasha, what would you like to say about this?
Like your eating choices, but as an animal, because we're all animals, like lions, whatever.
You are.
Anyway, like lions eat, like doesn't matter what age, they'll eat any animal. Like, how does that different for humans?
But no, the thing is, right, you know what a lion also does? A male lion will go and eat a female lion's cubs so that the lion can mate with the female. So you can't really use that argument there, you know what I mean? But it's a fucked up word, you know what I mean? Because it's like the lion's just eating the cubs and now the female's gonna fuck him. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine that?
Lion, I'm just using like a specific animal. Like, it could be any animal eats, like...
The question is, should we base our morality on what other species are engaging in? That's a perfect example. Other species are engaging in rape and murdering their own young. So does that excuse humans to do the same?
All right. Let's bring it back to the farmers. Let's bring it back to them. Let them have their viewpoint. We'll have we might have a section for you guys.
Well, we produce food and try and produce the best quality food we can, what the public want to eat. If they want to eat meat, we'll try and produce the best lamb chops, best steak, fisheries, whatever the public want to eat. That's what we try and do. Best vegetables, best cereals. And we're a revolving industry. We're always regulated, extremely regulated now. We get more and more regulations. Live export's a classic one. If we didn't export into these other countries, we saw the disturbing footage in Indonesia a few years ago. Well, whether it was or not, if that's their culture, well, it's up to us. If we weren't in there trying to educate them, you wouldn't stop it. They'd get their sheep from somewhere else. So while we're still involved, and if we can stay involved, we can try and educate these other countries and make more humane. But I like eating my steak, I like eating my chops, and I'll produce the best quality I can for it. So I'm a predator. My eyes are in front. If I wasn't, my eyes would be out the side of my head. So.
But I'll have to give you one point. I disagree with factory farming. Okay? I believe in free-range farming, which is what we do. The animals have a free life out in the paddocks. They are not in a factory. They're not locked into a small area. They're not locked into yards. They're not locked into little boxes like you. I disagree totally with the description of farming that you've described. Unfortunately, we imported that from the Seppos. And if you don't want to know what that is, there's a bloke in the room that I I could say that it is. It's from America. All right? We imported that type of farming from America, and I don't agree with it, and I'd like to see it banned, personally, because I believe that animals should be allowed to have a free life while they're alive. But I agree with him. I'll produce meat because I like to eat it, and I like to produce it the best way I can. And I run my animals as ethically as I can in the modern world. So, like I said, if you want to see how animals can be run ethically, you're welcome to come and visit me.
Where's your location?
I'm out in the Swan Valley.
Okay.
So I'm not that far from Perth.
So quick plug.
And I have seen people write absolute bullshit on my website about how I treat my animals. They've never visited me, so they have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be visiting you. You said you kill humans, so we'll leave that one.
I have killed humans. I didn't say I do it now. I said I've done it in the past. All right? I didn't have a choice. I was sent to fight in a war that I had no choice with. Once again, it was a war we inherited from the Americans. I didn't. I was conscripted. I didn't have a choice.
So can I just respond back to the free-range thing? Firstly, whether or not the animal is free-range or not, they're still sent to the same murder factory where they're shot in the head or forced into a carbon dioxide gas chamber. That is standard legal industry practice, whether they're coming from the meat industry, dairy, egg, wool industry, etc. All animal industries are inherently abusive and murder animals for profit or once they're considered no longer profitable to the industry. In saying that, there's actually no legal framework as to what the term free-range means in Australia, and I've been inside free-range farms where animals are living in their own feces in big, dark sheds, and it's horrific. It is not the free range that you would expect. They're not living out in pastures. Yes, I know that there is a small minority where they are. However, they're still enslaved and commodified, and they're used for their flesh and secretions or their wool, etc. It's still abuse and murder, and it's unnecessary, and we do not need to be contributing to this anymore. There is an abundance of vegan options in our supermarkets, and it's so easy to choose the non-animal abuse over the animal abuse product. And it's time to consider others of different species because they have a right to live just like us.
Where are we going to produce the food to feed the people? You said the supermarkets. Food doesn't grow in a supermarket. It grows on a farm.
It's all about supply and demand. So if there's an increase in the demand for plant-based foods, then that product will be produced, right? It's all about supply and demand, as you just said.
It is all about supply and demand. But as urban spreads, all your fruit, all your veggie growing areas are declining. So where do they go? They can't go out in the desert. You can run cattle and goats out in the desert. They can survive.
So, I mean, there's studies that have been done that if you were to stop all animal farming in the world tomorrow, we would clear up as much land as Africa, the actual continent of Africa. We only need a fraction of that to produce plant-based foods to feed humans. We would actually clear up land. We would be saving land by choosing a plant-based diet. There'd be less farming required as compared to the amount of land required for animal-based foods.
And more chemicals to use to control weeds.
No, yeah, I mean, you can grow organic. It's pretty simple.
Is it? Is it? What was the country that went organic and stopped them using phosphates and now they're starving? Sri Lanka?
Just let them go at the moment. Questions we'll save for later. But
can I ask a question real quick? And this, like, both of you can answer this as well. What are the repercussions in perhaps not killing the animals and eating them? Like, will we have an influx of animals? Will they overbreed? Like, what would happen?
The average goat has 2 cycles a year.
All right. The average goat, any goat, has 2 cycles a year. Now, if they're allowed to mate freely in those 2 cycles, they will produce up to 4 kids a year. Now, each kid has a 50% chance of being male or female. If it's a male, 9 times out of 10, the senior buck in the herd will belt the crap out of them and kill them. And then he'll mate with the females, which will then produce another 4 kids a year. So pretty soon we're going to be overrun with animals. But if they're farmed, then we control their breeding. So, yeah, I guess there's pros and cons for that. Talked about food production. How many people here understand what happens when you grow GMO food for pesticide resistance? Do you know what the difference is between food that's grown GMO'd for pesticide resistance and food that's grown normally? You can't use the seeds. But also, they can use 10 times as much pesticide on it because it's pesticide resistant. So you're eating 10 times as much pesticide if you eat GMOs.
I think we need to come down to your farm and spend a night there. Sounds like a lovely place.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Would you like to rebuttal, Tash?
Yeah, so every year 70 billion land animals are forcibly bred into existence for human food consumption. This is only happening, again, because of supply and demand. They wouldn't be bred into existence in the first place if there were no demand to consume their flesh, their secretions, wear their skin, wool, etc. They just would not exist, and that's exactly what we're saying here today. We have the power as an individual to create change and not pay people to rape and forcibly breed these animals into existence to be subjected to enslavement, torture, abuse and murder. And by purchasing the plant-based product, we're increasing the demand for that, and less animals are bred into existence into a life of enslavement, abuse and murder.
So what about...
So they wouldn't exist.
What about in the case of like the wild boar situation that we have here? We have an influx of wild boar.
Exactly.
And it's like open season where you can actually kill the wild boar because they are
Would you,
overtaking.
Tash?
Like, is that inhumane or like how? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, could you answer the question of if we did stop all farming tomorrow and we all lived off a plant-based diet, how would, like the farmers have told us, how would the influx of animals be, that would obviously be a problem. How are we going to control that if we're just eating plant-based diet? Not saying that I disagree. I think if you want to choose to have a plant-based diet, that is completely up to you. If you want to eat meat, at the end of the day, we know the consequences of both. We know the consequences of GMOs on individuals eating 10 times as much pesticide. We know the global warming with the CO2, carbon monoxide from cows, and all that.
Can I comment back on that?
Yes, of course.
The amount of sheep and cattle in New Zealand produce as much CO2s as one air flight from Auckland to Christchurch return.
That's something I didn't know. Not saying I disagree with either side. I'm very much fenced it up. I think it's just nice to hear your rebuttal on. If we did go plant-based, how would we control the farming? How would we control the amount of animals that breed naturally without any human interventions?
Okay, so what you've mentioned here is a very hypothetical scenario. The reality is that the world isn't just going to go vegan or at least plant-based overnight. It's a gradual process of supply and demand. So that's the reality. It's a gradual process. And that means the increased demand for plant-based foods will increase the demand for vegan options. And the decreased demand for animal products would mean that less animals are being bred into existence. It's not like the world's suddenly going to go vegan and there's billions of animals just existing. They wouldn't, that less would be bred into existence.
But like we are not out there like open game with kangaroos and wild boars, but yet we have an influx of that to a point where where you can actually go hunt them to actually decrease the population of them. So what happens with the rest of the other populations that we're not monitoring? Because we can't put them all on birth controls, no? Like, so
that already occurs with the kangaroos.
That's not necessarily true because there's been...
You have to cull them, right? Yeah. And they were doing it with sharks as well. So like...
In camels.
Camels, like, so...
In New South Wales, there's actually been a parliamentary inquiry to show local extinctions of kangaroos, so that's just actually not the reality here.
You haven't been out in the bush very
Introduced species, those problems have happened because of humans.
Local extinction.
Humans are the most invasive and destructive species on this planet. Why are we putting our own problems upon others of different species? We should let animals live in their natural environments freely. To use this excuse to continue abusing and murdering animals is just not excusable.
Can I ask a question here, an ethical one? Australia is the capital of introduced species. We've got more feral goats, camels and brumbies than any other country in the world. Are we allowed to cull feral animals to feed people? Is that something that's ethically, acceptable within your vegan framework? Or is culling, say, camels that are running rampant in outback Australia, do they have to live in their natural environment given that they're an invasive species?
Right question. Well, yeah, it's going back again on the fact that humans are the most destructive and invasive species, so does that mean we should start a human cull? Absolutely not. So why should we put that upon others of different species and justify murder for the own issues that humans themselves have created? So absolutely not. I don't agree with murder. Full stop.
Where do you stand? So all like drum skins are from an animal, right? Do you like Bob Marley?
Not really. I don't listen to that.
Percussion instruments generally, like, are we allowed to use animal skins on drums, or is that out the window as well? Like, are we taking...
Veganism is not only about our food choices, it's an ethical view against animal abuse and murder, and that means not using animals in any form, not abusing them and murdering them when it's unnecessary. There are vegan alternatives. I'm sure there's plenty of synthetic materials instead of shooting someone in the head and turning their bodies into a musical instrument or a piece of clothing.
Does that go for like insect repellent?
What if the animal's already dead, and then you eat it?
It's not causing abuse and murder, so I don't know why anyone would want to consume someone's dead body that's just been sitting there. But yeah, it's not involved abuse or murder.
Are you still an animal abuser then?
So you're wearing
No.
You're wearing a belt. Is that belt from leather or is that an artificial?
Yeah, it's vegan leather, yeah.
Okay, but it's leather.
Yeah, it's not someone's skin.
It's actually an artificial product.
Yeah, it's vegan, yes.
No, it's an artificial product.
Yes.
That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, no one was shot in the head for my belt.
Yeah, but it is leather?
Yes,
So
vegan
it came
leather.
from an animal?
No, it's vegan leather, so it's a synthetic material and no one was shot in the head
So
and
that
it's not
bit of
someone else's
synthetic
skin.
material you've got, that produced as much CO2 as driving my car from here to Darwin. That's correct.
Can I see the scientific resource for
Well,
that
you've only got to
information?
go to WHO, the United Nations WHO website. That will actually show you that for every 500 grams of synthetic material created, it produces as much CO2 as driving 2,000 kilometres.
Animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gases than the world's
I
entire
agree.
transport system.
Factory
But we're not
house
here
farming.
to argue about environment.
Factory
We're here to
farming.
argue about the rights
Factory
of other
farming.
species. So we're going a little bit off topic
farming.
here.
No, factory farming, I agree with you. It produces as much methane as cars. But there animals are not being fed a proper diet. So I agree with you on factory farming. It produces methane. But free-range animals don't produce any greenhouse gases.
Sure, you can have that opinion or you can find the literature to actually show me that, but we're not here to argue about environment. We're here to say that there's a vegan alternative, so why would you subject someone to enslavement, torture, abuse
It's
and
all
murder
part of it.
for a belt?
But it's all part of it. It's all part of the environment.
Yeah, and as we said, there's no difference between the free range and the factory farmed. Yes, the factory farmed animals have to suffer a lot more throughout their life, but whether they're free range or not, they're all shot in the head. They all die when they don't have to. They're murdered. Their life is taken away from them when it didn't have to be.
Well, they do have to be because I want to eat the damn things.
Everyone lives and dies. No one lives forever.
Does that justify murder? Is that a justification to take someone's life?
If you have to survive, yes.
We're not talking about survival here. Plenty of species require animal flesh for their survival, and if you were in a survival situation, then yeah, it probably would be excusable to take someone's life to eat their bodies. but you can actually go into the supermarket and choose a plant-based option. You don't have to subject someone to enslavement, torture, abuse and murder.
I think the debate here is that we understand your point, and yes, there are definitely so many vegan options nowadays, and you can live off a plant-based diet, and it's not hard. Yes, it may be more expensive, but yes, you are saving a lot of animals. I think what we're trying to say here is that it's very difficult to ask people to be vegan when they've eaten meat their whole lives. It is definitely a choice, like eating meat is a choice. Becoming vegan is a choice. I eat meat and I think, live exports are horrible. I'm doing my part wherever I can to not eat meat. But at the end of the day, it is my choice, and whether I want to change that is up to me personally. So it is everyone's individual opinion on whether they want to eat meat or not. And
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Eating plants is detrimental to your fucking health.
Look, I think this.
If that's all you're going to eat.
I think this
it's not good for you.
I think this.
Do you know what's hard? Being a dairy cow who has raped her entire life and had her babies taken away from them to be shot in the head so you can consume her breast milk. That is hard. There is no justification to continue abusing and murdering animals because it's inconvenient. It's absolute. This is an atrocity here. We're talking about individuals who are being subjected to enslavement, torture, abuse and murder. And to say, oh, it's hard. Imagine what their lives are like.
Can I just ask a question?
Put yourself in their position.
I'm going to have to pause both of you guys for a second. I think this deserves a round two. We've got a lot of other things on the night. And, thank you very much, both of you guys, for coming down. We're running a bit short on time.
I just have a question.
No, there's
one question. Let's get two questions out.
Two questions?
Yeah,
all right.
Because otherwise...
Question. Can we just have a question to frame perhaps the next discussion is that it appears...
All right. Yep. Hello, madam. What's your name? Rebecca. There you go. You got the microphone.
Thank you. Can we just have perhaps to frame the next discussion, is that it appears that on one side we've got a fundamental belief that animals and humans are the same kind of thing or being with the same rights, the same experiences, and that therefore under that belief system, eating an animal is a rape, murder, atrocity, I believe was the tagline. And then on this side, we've got, there seems to be a fundamental belief that animals and humans are a somewhat different kind of being, and that therefore there is an ethical argument for eating animals, whereas under that belief framework, there isn't one. So, if we could perhaps address that in the next section, it might be really productive. Thanks.
Can I start on
Thank
that?
you, Tash. Thank you. To the brother, here you go. What's your name? Ryan.
Do we want to just touch on that real quick? Was that a question, like a quick one? Yeah, so that's not our position. Like, that's not our belief. We don't believe that we're the exact same as non-human animals. There are differences, but we're similar in all the ways that matter. We feel pain, we suffer, and we all have a desire to live. And if we don't have to have our life taken away from us, if it's completely unnecessary, which it is, that's the similarity between us and non-humans.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Ryan. I'm just going to touch on a couple of points that you mentioned. I think one of them was that a point in which that the whole world can go vegan. So if the whole world went vegan, right, in the next couple of years, do we understand the level of impact that it's going to have on third world countries? Because a lot of these countries actually survive of farming. So what remedy do you have for these poor third world countries? This is more than 80% of the population in the world who actually survive on meat because it's a lot cheaper than having vegan products.
Yeah, so plant-based foods are the most fundamental foods. We're talking about a diet that's based around whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables. We can get all the nutrients we need from a plant-based diet. We can thrive on a plant-based diet, whether you're in a third world country or not. If we shifted our farming practices towards plant-based farming and we farmed foods that meet those categories of plant-based food groups, we can all thrive on that plant-based diet. So, yeah, it doesn't really matter. I know there's differences currently between the farming systems, but as Tash touched on before, it's supply and demand, and it's a gradual shift. So as we start to put money towards plant-based food systems, that's how the world will change.
No, but I think what he was saying was, like, how would those that actually thrive off and pay their bills, their mortgage, their light bills and everything from farming, once you cut that off, like, okay, they've got plant-based diets to live off, but what now happens with that economy and that structure of how they survive and actually, like, prosper as human beings?
Yeah, it's a gradual shift. No one's going to cut it off tomorrow. I mean, that's a very hypothetical situation. That's not going to happen. It is gradual. And with all economies, that's how supply and demand works. As the population demand for food groups changes, i.e. as we shift, let's say, from an animal-based diet to a plant-based diet, and no one's eating 100% animal-based diet. There are the few extremes. But as a society as a whole, it's probably predominantly plant-based foods with animal-based foods in there. And all you're doing is you're just swapping out that animal-based protein source and swapping it with plant-based. So you're not really changing the entire agricultural system. You're just shifting a small part of it. And that, yeah.
Well, actually, I've got a comment there. I'll just say that, you know, basically, I'd say I'm a vegetarian because, you see, even though I eat animals, those animals eat vegetables and plants. I'm just eating a value-added product.
Thank you very much to the farmers and the vegans for coming out tonight. Ahmed?
Big round of applause to Tash and the team for coming outside and talking. Thank you for coming to the show. Big round of applause to John and Sasha for coming down. These guys drove 150 plus kilometers for the show. Thank you very much, Sasha.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back onto the stage, Emo Majo.
I got my own merch now. It's a car air freshener with my black face on it. And I sell them for $5 each. But Yous is such a good group of people. We can do 2 for $10 if you want. You know what? You only live once, man. We can do 4 for $20. The money goes to a good cause. Because with every purchase that you make, you too can get pulled over for having a black guy in the car. All right, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for your first act for the comedy?
You guys ever have those days where you feel like a piece of yourself is missing? I do. I'm circumcised. Yeah, I'm Muslim, guys. You know, we love a good beheading.
Now, I actually got into a car accident with a vegan recently. It was ironic because I T-boned him. I was on TV recently. I was on the latest episode of the news. I look like this. I had to go to court recently because I created this illegal app that allows me to I go to women's houses to give them abortions. This app that I've created, it's called Uber Yeats. We ended up having a hung jury because they were all black men.
I'm always shocked by these people that want to go to Hogwarts, the school from Harry Potter. Like, you ask them, what school do you want to go to? I want to go to Hogwarts. I want to be a Gryffindor for muffin stuff or eating muff or whatever the fuck. Blows my mind that these people want to go to Hogwarts, considering they have the magical equivalent of at least 5 school shootings a year. Seriously, they killed the fucking principal. Like, abracadabra, Columbine, bitch! People tell me I look like a fat Wolverine. You think it's the sideburns? That's where you're at? You with Weapon X? I'm more like Weapon Extra Large. You ever like ask yourself, what the fuck am I doing with my life? I'm not talking about me. I'm happy with doing this. I'm talking about you people. You people. You paid money to be here. You paid for this. I mean, there was a fucking whole vegan talk. There was a whole, and now there's like last minute where there's comedians just yelling at you about Jaws and shit. You're fucking happy about it. You just came here. You happily came here tonight to laugh at my bullshit. They were talking about serious shit. She was talking about not eating cows or something. He's talking about how a cow sucked his dick or something, like he loved it.
I don't know! What's the go with the wrestling belt that's been here the whole fucking night during debates? I'm gonna wear this thing. Do you want to see me wear this thing? I'll fucking wear this thing and knock everything off there. I'm gonna have to hold it.
You're gonna wrestle Hamad for it.
I'll wrestle. Hamad, where are you? I'll wrestle you for this. I'm drunk enough. Man, this is the weirdest show I've ever been to. Like, honestly, it is. Like, I didn't know if I was in the debate or I was doing comedy. I just got asked to be here by the main character from Aladdin that's dressed like the devil. And I had to sign a form when I walked in the door. I made a deal with the devil. I'm not doing material. Fuck that.
We're having debates before comedy. Okay, on one side we've got Corey White, which is a Rhodes Scholar in the likes of Kim Beazley, whatever. Then we got Echo, right? I couldn't hear him at the back. Has he just landed 2 days after Singapore? Like, he was quiet as fuck. Then in the back room, you know, that little conference room, we had to shut the door because Echo got loud. Echo, where was the loudness on stage, bro? I love that he tried, but it was so different.
Is this not a shit show? For you guys as well? I feel like I'm on like that first scene of Wolf Creek with these lights. You know what I mean? Are you a backpacker? You know these things? I don't know. The positive of being a black fella, mocker, but a black fella, is that if the set doesn't go too well, terra nullius, I was never here. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, I used to think terra nullius was a Harry Potter spell. And my mum used to get so mad at me when I'd look at my brothers and sisters and to make them disappear. I'd be like, terra nullius. And she's like, it's Christmas. We need them.
As of yesterday, guys, I'm officially now a father for the first time. Thank you. But look, don't applaud too loud at getting an abortion. I can't afford that shit. I may dress like Steve Jobs, but I ain't got that kind of money, you know? I don't know what happened to our leaders. You know, back in the day, our leaders would have to ride into war with us, give us a speech. Could you imagine Joe Biden doing that today?
I'm Joe Biden, and I'm here for 55 Americans. And what's your name now? Sorry? Matt. And are you vaccinated? You want to sit on Uncle Joe's lap? Come on now. Got something for you, Daddy.
You haven't learned by now, I'm an awkward guy, you know? I didn't realize how awkward I was and how sexually awkward I was until I got my first girlfriend and she sprung on phone sex on me on the first time. We're just having a chat and all of a sudden she just goes, oh, Brad, I'm so wet. And straight away, like a psyche split. I was this old politician from the 1800s and I was like, pardon? And she's like, stop fucking around, Brad. What are you gonna do to me? And I was like, I fumble around. And then I find your, And she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, oh, no, allow me, I'd get my 2, 1, I mean, however many is the going rate. And then I get my penis. What the fuck is wrong with you? Did you just come? I was like, no. Yes, I mean, whatever.
My name is Karen, and I guess these days that's a joke within itself. I'm not going to lie, I can be a bit of a Karen though. Last week I did a show so bad that I demanded to speak to the manager and I complained about myself. Yeah.
I was at the dog beach the other day, right? And I see these big Dobermans, Great Danes, everything running around. Then I see a bunch of Asians, right? And these Asians have a cat in their hand. And I look at them and I'm like, you're causing no fucking accidents on the freeway. And I ain't gonna fucking cause one right here. I feel like sometimes David Attenborough's like narrating my sex life. It's that sad now. He's just in the background like, life for the male baboon is very difficult. He has been unsuccessful in securing a mate. And tonight, he will sleep alone with a rock hard bone. It's fucking tough, man. I was at the beach the other day and I see these ladies, they're tanning with their bra off, right? Nipples out, everything. I didn't think big of it. I went up to them and I was like, hey, what's going on? What's good? Like, they're like, hey, our nipples never see sunlight. It's just the concentration of nerves, skin, and tissue. And I'm like, cool. So I whipped my knob out. I've never seen a bitch run so quick in my life. It wasn't even the shaft, it was just the knob. It's crazy though. Most men in this room, right, none of our penises actually ever see direct sunlight. It actually gets so dark in my pants, I had my penis speak to me last night. It was like, you think darkness is your ally? I was born in it, molded by it. In love and everything, it was great. You know how you get that kind of conversation and dialogue going on when you make love? You guys do that? Anyone? Yeah? You look like you fucking whistle. I'm serious, bro. You look like you whistle, man. You look like you make some weird ass fucking noises, bro. Like you put crickets in cages and shit. You know what I don't understand? I don't understand who names shit like Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Andy, Hurricane Sandy. These are real fucking names. These are Bunnings worker employee names. If you're gonna have a hurricane, you're gonna give it a strong name. So you give it an Arab dad name. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine that, listening to that on the news. Tonight on Channel 10 News, Hurricane bin Abu bin Yusuf Wahed is storming through town. Bro, all you see from space is a black cloud going east. You know what that black cloud is? It's every Somali, every Arab running for their life because they know this Arab dad hurricane gonna whoop their ass. All right, guys, that's me. Thank you very much for coming to the show. It was definitely excellent. We're all very, very tired.